So now that the materials are all assigned, and once I'm happy with the look of the materials, then this is all ready to export out as a look layer to hand over to lighting. And the USD layer export node has been introduced to do just this. So this allows for layer and stage exporting. Not just for materials, but also geometry, transformations, lights, cameras, and other USD data that you might want to export out of Katana. And the node works in a very similar way to the look file bake and the USD material bake nodes that you might already be familiar with, where it takes two inputs and takes the difference between these 2 points in the node graph as the information to bake out. So I'm going to place this node below my schema nodes, and I want to make sure that the second input is linking up to the tree. And I'm going to keep this node in line with the rest of the node network. Now this is slightly different to where you would place a look file bake node, where it might be off to the side. But the reason being is that this node has a really nice option to allow you to use the exported file instead of the nodes that we're exporting. And so if it's all linked up, then it means you don't have to relink the node network to be able to make use of that. And I'll demonstrate that workflow in a moment. So here I want to be exporting my materials, the assignments, the collections as well, and my displacement and trace parameters that I've set using the USD schema set nodes. If you needed to, if you had a particularly heavy material network, it might also be a good idea to just export the materials themselves and bring them back into Katana for the purpose of optimization. So this first input, as usual, would need to connect up above everything that I want to bake out, but slightly different workflow here. We will need to use a USD layer define node to define the point that we want to bake from. So I'll just place this above the collection stack. Now this node acts as a bit of a starting point. So the node will look up the branch until it hits a USD layer define, and then that will be the point where it knows where to bake from. And again, this can be placed either in line with the nodes, or it could be placed off to the side. But I'm going to keep it in line to keep everything tidy for now. And I'll just connect this up, adding a few dot nodes here to keep everything nice and neat. And this USD layer define node, if you look at the parameters, it can also be used to specify an existing baked USD layer. And if a layer is specified here, then the baked results will be combined with the specified layer. Whereas if nothing is specified in here, then everything will be baked out as overs. So for example, if you imported a stage and then made some transformations inside Katana, you could then specify the stage and bake out a new version which would combine the new transformations as well as the existing stage, so that you can replace the entire stage with that new file. Otherwise, just the transformations will be baked out. Cool, so let's take a better look at the USD layer export parameters. So we have the save directory where this layer should be exported to. We have different USD file formats that we can choose from. If there's animation that we want to bake, we can specify the frame range here, as well as how the composition arcs are exported and whether they're flattened. And we also have some other metadata options for really refining how the information is baked out of Katana. And we have that useful use exported option, which I'll demonstrate in a minute. So let's add the path that we want to bake to. And I'm going to bake it out as a USDA file so that I'll be able to have a look inside the file after and see exactly what's been written out. And once that's done, we can just click export. there'll be a dialog. It disappeared very quickly, but with slightly heavier scenes, there'll be a dialog there to show that it's exporting. And once that disappears, it will be all baked out. So now that we have our file exported, I can use that really useful use exported tick box. And you can see that when this is checked, there's some visual indication in the node graph to show that that baked out USD layer is being used. So first of all, on the USD layer export node, the symbol will be yellow to show that the exported layer is active. Also, if you have the dim nodes not contributing to viewed node selected, this is a really nice option and a really nice visual indication to show which nodes are being used. So when this is ticked, you can see that all of those nodes are being bypassed. And we can double check that everything is still working as expected by selecting any of the meshes and making sure that that material binding is still intact. And I'll also set off another render just so that we can visually check that everything is looking correct. So we can see here that that baked USD file has all the information that we need. All of our materials and bindings have been baked out correctly. We can also take a look inside the baked out USDA file and just check what's being exported. So here we can see that all of our collections are being exported, as well as the attributes that we set using the USD schema set nodes. We have all of our materials, and at the bottom we should have our bindings as well. So just before we jump over to the lighting side of things, I just want to show you the USD layer export group. So I'm just going to delete this setup here and reconnect this. So the USD layer export group is a new node that basically does the same thing as the USD layer export and the USD layer define, but it's a macro that's been set up to connect these nodes up in your node graph automatically. So the best way to use it would be to highlight the nodes that you want to export and then go to Edit and collapse selected nodes to USD layer export group. And this will collapse all the nodes down. And if you jump inside the group, you can see that the USD layer export and the USD layer define have been connected up automatically in the same way that we just set it up manually. And the handy thing here is that the parameters for both those nodes can be accessed from the group parameters. So here we have the layer define asset parameter, and then under here we have all of the export parameters. And we can still use that use exported checkbox and get the nice visual indication when it is and isn't being used. So both workflows are completely valid. This is a nice way to keep things sort of neat and tidy in the node network, but it really comes down to you and which you prefer to use.